It was a hot and quiet afternoon in a small southern town. Officer Rick Dalton had just finished dealing with 3 back-to-back calls, none of which had ended smoothly. He was tired, frustrated, and just wanted to get home, as he drove toward the gas station near the edge of town. He kept thinking about how the world seemed to be changing too fast for him to understand. Everything felt tense these days. New policies, city reforms, and constant talk about accountability. It didn't make him feel secure. It made him feel watched. He pulled into the gas station to grab an energy drink and stretch his legs. As he parked, he noticed a shiny black SUV in one of the parking spots near the store entrance. A tall, well-dressed black woman stepped out. She wore a neat blue blazer, slacks, and had her hair tied up in a neat bun. Her posture was confident, and she looked like someone who belonged in a meeting, not a roadside gas station. She was talking on her phone, speaking softly but firmly, pacing near the SUV. Rick paused. Something about the scene annoyed him. Maybe it was the SUV. Maybe it was the way she looked so calm and focused, like she didn't even see him. It was just his bad mood. But something pushed him to walk over. "Ma'am," he said, standing tall, his hands resting on his belt. "You can't just stand around here." The woman turned slowly, looked at him for a second, and held up a polite finger, asking for just one moment while finishing her call. Rick's eyebrows raised. He didn't like being ignored. "I'm talking to you," he said, louder this time. She ended her call, looked at him directly, and said calmly, "I heard you. I just needed to finish my sentence." "Is there a problem, officer?" Rick crossed his arms. "This isn't a place to make phone calls. I've had complaints about people loitering. You can't just hang around here without a reason." She looked puzzled but remained calm. "I'm not loitering. I just stopped to make a quick call. I'll be on my way shortly." Rick's tone became sharper. "You're being difficult, ma'am." The woman took a slow breath. "Sir, I'm not trying to cause any issues. I'm simply asking for respect. You don't need to speak to me this way." Something about her words triggered something inside Rick. Maybe it was because he felt out of control lately, or maybe it was because he didn't like being corrected. Whatever the reason, his voice got louder. "Don't tell me how to do my job," he said, stepping closer. "If you don't want trouble, you should cooperate." The woman didn't flinch. She stood straight, her voice still steady. "Cooperating. I just don't appreciate the tone you're using with me." Rick's jaw tightened. He wasn't used to being challenged like this, especially not in public. A few people nearby had started to watch. A man in a truck, a young woman, holding a soda, and a teenager filming with a phone from behind a car. Rick noticed them but didn't stop. Then, in a moment of frustration, he made a gesture he would later regret. He turned away, muttered under his breath, and spit on the ground right near her feet. Not at her, but too close for it to be respectful. The woman looked down, then back at him. Her face showed no anger, it's disappointment. Pure, calm disappointment. She said nothing. Rick walked back to his car, frustrated, feeling somehow like he had won and lost at the same time. As he pulled out of the lot, he looked back in the mirror. The woman was still standing there, composed and quiet, as if she knew something he didn't. And she did. That night, Rick told the story to a fellow officer over coffee. He laughed it off, saying the woman had an attitude and didn't know her place. He didn't mention the spitting part. He didn't mention the way she had looked at him like she saw right through him. He just said she was difficult and didn't show respect. His friend shrugged and moved on to another topic. But the moment stuck in Rick's mind. He couldn't shake it. The way she never raised her voice. The way she didn't give in. The way she walked with quiet confidence, even as he tried to assert power. What he didn't know was that the woman he had confronted was not just passing through town. Her name was Gloria James. And the very next morning, she was scheduled to walk into that same police department not as a visitor, not as a civilian, but as the new police chief. The state had sent her in as part of a reform plan. The town had seen too many complaints over the past 2 years about unfair stops, disrespectful treatment, and poor community trust. Gloria had spent over 2 decades in law enforcement in a major city, where she worked her way up with hard-earned respect. She was known not for being harsh, but for being fair, for listening, For acting with quiet strength, she had arrived in town a day early, wanting to observe quietly, get a feel for the people and the environment without anyone knowing who she was. That phone call in the gas station lot she was speaking with? The mayor, finalizing plans for her first day. So when Officer Rick Dalton treated her as if she didn't belong, she didn't fight him. She just watched. She listened. She remembered. And now, as the morning sun rose over the town the next day, the police station buzzed with talk of the new chief's arrival. No one knew her name yet, just that she was a woman. From a city department, some said she was tough, others said she was just another outsider. Rick sat at his desk, still grumpy from the day before. He joked with another officer, saying, "Watch her walk in with a folder full of rules and lectures. Probably never even worked a beat." He didn't see the tall woman in uniform walk past the front window. But he would. Very soon, and everything he thought he knew was about to change. The morning was bright and clear as the small police station began to buzz with activity. Everyone knew today was important. The town had been waiting for this day for months. The new police chief was arriving. The mayor had promised a fresh start, and people hoped things would finally change for the better. Inside the station, officers gathered, some chatting quietly, others checking their equipment. Officer Rick Dalton was among them, his face still shadowed with yesterday's frustration. He felt uneasy, but he tried to hide it with jokes and light comments. "They say the new chief is from the city. Probably thinks she can fix everything. With a rule book," he said to a colleague. Nobody answered. The tension in the room was growing, like the calm before a storm. No one really knew what to expect. The rumors had spread. The new chief was a woman. She had a strong reputation for fairness and discipline. But some officers weren't sure if she would understand this small town, its people, or the way things worked here. Minutes later, the front door swung open. Everyone turned. Gloria James stepped inside. Her uniform was crisp and clean, the badge shining on her chest. Her eyes scanned the room with quiet confidence. She did not smile, but her presence filled the space. She walked calmly, her steps steady and sure. Rick's heart raced. He recognized her immediately. It was the same woman from the gas station, the one he had confronted the day before. He wanted to turn away, to hide. But there was no escaping. She was the new leader now. Gloria stopped near the center of the room. Her voice was clear and calm as she introduced herself. "Good morning. I'm Chief Gloria James. I am here to serve this community and this department with respect, fairness, and honesty." Words were simple, but they carried weight. Spoke about the importance of trust between officers and citizens, and among the officers themselves. She reminded them that being a police officer was not just about enforcing laws, but about building relationships. Rick looked around the room. Some officers nodded quietly, others looked skeptical. All of them knew this was a turning point. After the introduction, Gloria asked to meet each officer privately over the next few days. She wanted to listen to their experiences, their challenges, and their hopes. She believed that to lead well, she had to understand the people she was leading. That same afternoon, Gloria sat at her desk reviewing files. She was careful and methodical. She studied past complaints, reports, and notes about the department's work. She noticed a pattern, a number of incidents involving disrespect toward community members, especially those from minority groups. She felt a deep responsibility to address these problems without delay. Meanwhile, Rick sat in the break room, still feeling uneasy. He had tried to laugh off his encounter with Gloria, but he couldn't forget the calm strength she had shown. For the first time in years, he felt like someone saw through his act of toughness. His thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. It was Captain Miller, his direct supervisor, Rick. "The chief wants to meet with you," Miller said quietly. Rick's stomach tightened. He nodded and followed Miller down the hallway. In Gloria's office, the atmosphere was professional but firm. She looked at Rick directly and said, "Officer Dalton, I know you. We met yesterday." Rick swallowed hard and tried to keep his voice steady. "Chief James, I'm sorry if I caused any trouble. It wasn't personal," Gloria replied. Calmly, respect is not about personal feelings. It is about how we treat each other and the community. What happened yesterday was not acceptable. I expect better from all officers, especially from you." Rick felt a wave of shame, but also a strange sense of relief. She was not angry. She was holding him accountable. For the first time, he realized this was more than just about one moment hit. It was about changing a way of thinking. Over the next few days, Gloria held several meetings with the department. She spoke about the importance of fairness, empathy, and responsibility. She explained that the police must serve everyone equally, no matter their background. Rick listened carefully. He began to understand that the world was changing and that he had to change with it. At the same time, the community was paying close attention. People were hopeful but cautious. Many remembered past promises that were never kept. They watched to see if Gloria's leadership would bring real improvement. One afternoon, a group of community leaders met with Gloria at the town hall. They shared stories of fear and mistrust between residents and police officers. Gloria listened quietly, taking notes. She promised to work toward healing those divides. Back at the station, a quiet message began to spread. Things were different. Now, officers who once ignored training sessions started attending them. Some even apologized to community members for past mistakes, but not everyone was happy. Rick noticed some officers whispering about outsiders changing the rules. Some joked behind Gloria's back, doubting her ability to lead. Despite that, Gloria stayed steady. She did not react to gossip or criticism. She focused on building respect through her actions, not just words. One morning, Rick arrived early and saw Gloria in the parking lot, talking kindly with a group of young people. They smiled and listened closely. Rick watched from a distance. Surprised by the warmth in the scene, he thought back to the gas station, to the moment he had judged her too quickly. He began to see her differently, not just as an authority figure, but as someone who cared deeply about the people she served. The days turned into weeks. Gloria continued to make changes. She updated training programs, encouraged honest conversations, and worked to repair the bond between police and community. Rick found himself facing new challenges. He had to confront his own attitudes and behaviors. He attended workshops he once avoided. He practiced listening more than speaking. Sometimes, it was uncomfortable, but Gloria reminded him growth takes courage. One afternoon, the department received news that a video from the gas station encounter had been shared online. People recognized Gloria and Rick. The town began talking about the incident again. The video showed Rick's frustration and disrespect. Many were angry. Some called for strict consequences. Rick felt panic rising. He wondered if his career was over. But Gloria handled the situation calmly. She called a meeting and said, "We will learn from this." Accountability means facing mistakes and choosing to do better. Rick respected her honesty and fairness. He realized that true leadership was about lifting people up, not tearing them down. As the community watched, Gloria continued to show patience and strength. She balanced justice with compassion. Rick began to understand that the past could not be changed, but the future could be shaped. And with Gloria's guidance, he was ready to try. The days after the arrival of Chief Gloria James were filled with change and quiet tension. The officers at the small-town police station were adjusting to new rules, new expectations, and a new way of thinking. Some accepted it quickly. Others resisted, whispering in corners or avoiding meetings. But Gloria moved forward with calm determination, knowing that real change would take time and patience. Officer Rick Dalton felt the pressure more than most. He could not forget the day he had confronted Gloria at the gas station, nor the way she had looked at him afterward. Her calm and steady presence unsettled him in a way he had never experienced before. It made him question not just his actions, but the beliefs he had held for so long. One afternoon, Gloria called Rick into her office. The room was simple but neat, with sunlight streaming through the window. She sat behind her desk and looked at him with clear eyes. "Rick, I want to talk about what happened yesterday, about respect." Rick felt his throat tighten. He nodded slowly, unsure what to say. Gloria continued, "Respect is the foundation of trust. Without it, we cannot serve our community well. It begins with how we treat each other inside this department. It extends to every person we meet in our work." Rick swallowed hard. I understand, Chief. I want to do better. She smiled gently. That's a good start. But understanding is only the beginning. Actions must follow. Gloria asked Rick to attend special training sessions focused on cultural awareness, communication, and community relations. At first, Rick was reluctant. He thought these sessions were unnecessary or a waste of time. But the more he listened, the more he realized how little he had truly understood about the people he served. During one session, the trainer shared stories from members of the community's stories of fear, pain, and hope. Rick heard about times when people felt ignored or treated unfairly, began to see how his own actions and those of others had contributed to these feelings. It was uncomfortable. But it was honest. Back at the station, Gloria started a new practice. Every week she held open forums where officers and community members could come together to talk. These meetings were sometimes tense. People shared their frustrations and fears. Officers listened and asked questions. It was the first time in years that voices from both sides were heard in the same room. Rick attended these forums reluctantly at first, but over time he found himself listening more deeply. He heard a young mother talk about how she once felt afraid to call the police, fearing they would not believe her. He heard a teenager speak about being stopped and searched for no clear reason. These stories touched him. They made him think about the trust he had broken with his own behavior. Meanwhile, Gloria continued to review the department's records carefully. She found a number of past complaints about officers' conduct, many ignored or dismissed. She was determined to address these issues, but she also wanted to be fair. Her goal was not to punish, but to heal. Rick noticed that some of his colleagues were unhappy, whispered about outsiders changing their way of life. Some refused to attend meetings or ignored new policies. Gloria faced resistance, but she remained firm and calm. One morning, Rick was walking through the station when he overheard two officers talking. I don't see why we have to listen to all this, one said. We've been doing this job for years. We don't need lessons on how to be decent. Rick felt torn. He wanted to say something, but the words caught in his throat. He remembered Gloria's words about respect and trust. He realized that this was not about their pride. It was about doing what was right. Later that day, Gloria asked Rick to help organize a community event. It would be a day for families and officers to come together, to play games, share food, and talk. Rick was surprised but accepted. He wanted to show that he could be part of something positive. The event was a success. Children laughed as officers played basketball with them. Families shared stories. Rick found himself talking with people he had never met before, people he had only seen as strangers or problems. He realized that behind every face was a story, a life, and a hope for peace. As the weeks passed, Rick began to change. He started volunteering more, joining training sessions willingly, and listening carefully to Gloria's guidance. It was not easy. Some days, old habits crept back. But he reminded himself that change was a journey, not a single step. One evening, the town held a meeting about police reform. Community members gathered in the town hall, many still cautious but hopeful. Gloria stood at the front and spoke with honesty. We cannot erase the past overnight, she said, but we can choose to build a future based on respect, fairness, and understanding. Rick sat quietly in the back. He felt a mixture of pride and humility. He was part of this change, but he knew there was still much to learn. Then, the unexpected happened. A video from the gas station and Rick's confrontation with Gloria was leaked online. It spread quickly through social media, stirring strong reactions. Many people were shocked by Rick's behavior. They expressed anger and disappointment. Some called for his suspension or dismissal. Rick was devastated. The video showed his worst moment. He feared his career was over. Gloria called an emergency meeting. She addressed the staff with calm authority. We all make mistakes, she said. But accountability means facing those mistakes and committing to grow. She announced that Rick would be temporarily relieved from active duty and required to attend additional training in community. Rick felt the weight of the decision, accepted it, knowing he deserved it. Over the following weeks, Gloria worked closely with Rick. She offered guidance and support, not punishment. She believed in second chances. Rick volunteered at a local community center, helping organize programs for youth. He met families, listened to stories, and shared his own regrets. Slowly, trust began to rebuild. Community members saw Rick's efforts and appreciated his honesty. At the police station, other officers noticed the change. Some remained skeptical, but others followed his example. Gloria continued to lead with patience and strength. She balanced justice with compassion, understanding that real change required hearts as well as rules. Rick's journey was far from over. But he had taken the first important steps. He had learned that respect was not given, it was earned. Leadership meant humility and courage, and that every day was a chance to be better. The town was still healing from the shock of the video that had spread online. Many people felt a mix of anger, sadness, and hope. They hoped the new police chief, Gloria James, could bring real change, not just words. Gloria knew that rebuilding trust would take more than just promises. It would take actions that everyone could see and feel. She began organizing a series of public forums where community members could speak openly about their experiences with the police. These forums were not easy. People came with heavy hearts and strong feelings. Many spoke about times when they felt ignored, disrespected, or even scared by those who were supposed to protect them. At the first forum, the room was full. There were parents, young adults, elders, and children. Many had tears in their eyes as they shared their stories. Gloria listened carefully, her expression serious but kind. She did not interrupt or defend. She simply listened. Officer Rick Dalton sat quietly at the back of the room. He had been ordered to attend these forums as part of his discipline, but he quickly realized they were much more than that. Hearing the community's voices made him feel a deep sadness for the pain he had helped cause. It was a feeling he had not known before, a mixture of guilt and determination. One woman spoke about her son who was stopped by police just for walking in his own neighborhood. Another man told of a time when he called for help but was treated with suspicion instead of care. Each story was different, but they shared a common thread: a lack of trust between the community and the police. Rick thought about his own actions the moment he had spat on Gloria, and how it had hurt not just her, but many others. He realized that disrespect was not just a personal failure, it was a problem that affected the entire community. Gloria spoke at the end of the forum. "I hear your pain, and I take responsibility. We cannot change the past, but we can work together to create a future where every person feels safe and respected." As the forums continued over the weeks, more and more people came forward. Some officers began to join the conversations, sharing their own challenges and hopes. It was a slow process, but a real one. Rick found himself volunteering to help organize these meetings. He wanted to show that he was serious about making things right. He worked alongside community leaders, helping set up chairs, prepare food, and welcome guests. Outside the forums, the town was watching closely. News outlets covered the events, showing footage of people coming together in dialogue and healing. Gloria's leadership was gaining respect beyond the police station. At the station, Gloria continued to hold officers accountable. She reviewed reports and complaints thoroughly. She reminded her team that respect was not just a word, it was a daily practice. Some officers resisted. They complained about the new rules and the increased scrutiny, but Gloria stood firm, reminding them that their job was to serve with honor and integrity. Rick, too, faced moments of doubt. Changing long-held beliefs was hard work. Sometimes he wanted to give up, but Gloria's steady presence inspired him to keep going. One day, Gloria invited Rick to join her in visiting a local youth center. They met young people who had been affected by police mistrust. Rick listened as they shared their hopes for the future, where they felt safe and valued. It was a powerful moment for Rick. He realized that the work he was doing was not just about fixing his mistakes, it was about helping build a better community. Back at the station, Gloria made a surprising announcement. She was planning to create a new community outreach program aimed at bringing police and residents closer together. She asked Rick to help lead the effort. Rick accepted, It was a chance to prove that he had changed, and to show the town that police officers could be partners, not enemies. The program involved neighborhood meetings, school visits, and community events. Rick found joy in these activities. He enjoyed talking with children, listening to parents, and learning about the town he had once seen only through the lens of suspicion. Slowly, the walls between the police and the community began to come down. One evening, after a long day, Rick sat quietly in his office. Gloria stopped by and sat down beside him. "You've come a long way," she said kindly. Rick smiled, feeling both proud and humble. "Thanks to you, Chief. I'm trying." Gloria nodded. "Change is never easy, but it's worth it." She paused, then added, "Remember, true leadership is not about power. It's about service." Rick thought about that. He realized she was right. Being a police officer was not about control or authority. It was about protecting and serving with respect and kindness. As the weeks turned into months, the town's relationship with the police improved. There were still challenges, but the path forward was clearer. Rick knew his journey was far from over, but he had taken important steps. He had learned that respect, trust, and understanding were the foundation of real safety. And with Gloria's guidance, the town was beginning to heal. Months passed since Gloria James took charge as the new police chief. The small town was slowly but surely changing. The tense atmosphere that had filled the streets and police station was giving way to hope and understanding. Gloria's leadership and the efforts of officers like Rick Dalton were beginning to reshape the relationship between the police and the community. Rick had come a long way from the frustrated officer who once spat at a woman in a parking lot. He was now a man committed to making a positive difference, learning each day how to better serve and respect those around him. One afternoon, the police department held a special ceremony. It was a quiet event, but important. Gloria stood at the front of the room, her face calm but proud. She spoke about the journey the department and community had taken together. She talked about accountability, growth, and the power of second chances. Then she called forward several officers who had shown real change and dedication. When Rick's name was announced, the room quieted. He stepped forward, feeling a mix of nerves and pride. Gloria handed him a certificate of recognition for his commitment to improving community relations and personal growth. Rick looked around and saw the faces of his fellow officers, some nodding in approval, others smiling gently. More importantly, he thought of the people in the community, the families, the children, the neighbors he had started to know and understand. After the ceremony, Gloria approached Rick. "This is just the beginning," she said. "Keep leading by example." Rick nodded. "I will, Chief." The work wasn't over, but Rick felt ready for the challenges ahead. Outside the police station, the town was changing too. People walked with lighter steps, and neighbors greeted each other warmly. Children played in parks without fear. The community was slowly rebuilding the trust that had been broken. To that first day, the moment he had confronted Gloria, he remembered the calm way she had handled his anger and disrespect. It was a lesson he never forgot, that true strength was found in patience and dignity. One evening, Rick volunteered to speak at a local school. He told the students about his journey, about mistakes, learning, and the importance of respect. The students listened carefully, asking questions about police work and how they could help build trust in their community. Rick's story was not just about the police. It was about all of them. About how change starts with each person, with small steps toward understanding and kindness. Gloria continued to lead the department with wisdom and care. She worked closely with community leaders, organizing programs and events that brought people together. She believed that a strong community was built on open hearts and honest conversations. One day, a young woman approached Gloria after a town meeting. She thanked her for the changes and said the community felt safer and more hopeful. Gloria smiled and said, "This is what happens when we choose to listen and work together." Back at the station, Rick felt a deep sense of purpose. He had faced his mistakes and worked to become better. He knew the journey was ongoing, but he was no longer afraid of change. He welcomed it. The town had shown him that respect, trust, and compassion were the true pillars of safety and peace. And it all began with a woman who chose to lead with dignity, even when faced with disrespect. Rick looked forward to the future, ready to serve with a new heart and a clear vision. 'Cause in the end, that is what leadership hand's true courage is all about. Would you like me to help with anything else?